Live with Hill and Ponton. I'm Matthew Hill here to answer some Q&As and hopefully get some great information from y'all as well. As we say here again and again, both y'all and us on this end, knowledge is power, and that's the power to get you the VA benefits you deserve. Nate, let's jump right in and see some questions. All right, from Michael. Is there a form or process to get VA to recognize that service personnel that were stationed in Okinawa were exposed to Agent Orange if they already provided the NDAA 22 as evidence? I would not say there is I will say this, there is no form, there is no process for getting them to recognize this. This is every claim the VA is going to say is different, and they're going to try to adjudicate every claim differently. So even if you prove that there was Agent Orange there and that many people were exposed, the next person has to go on and prove that as well. That is one of the more frustrating problems with Agent Orange exposure. The PACT Act solved a lot of that, but there still are areas where Agent Orange was used and the PACT Act did not recognize Okinawa. And that's going to be a problem going forward getting benefits. So unfortunately, it's just something you have to fight for yourself, and the next person has to fight for themselves. And that's how the VA is going to, unfortunately, I think they keep benefits that way, by making each person fight for themselves versus just doing a blanket recognition that the Agent Orange was stored there. John Newcomer, good to see you again. Good afternoon and thank you. Can a FOIA be submitted just for one or two items? Yes. Like a CMP exam or opinion letter? Yes. If so, wouldn't this be a faster result? Thanks for HMP for the wealth of knowledge. You're welcome here, John. It would it be a faster result? In theory, you would think so, but sometimes it's not. I tend to think that it's faster than getting your whole C file, but you never know with the VA. The easiest way is to go on to your ebenefits.com or I just lost it. The VA site that you can access. They should post CMP exams there. They do post CMP exams there as a rule, but unfortunately, I've seen exceptions where they were not there. So just know that that's the easiest way to get them. MPate 2478. I was in a serious car accident in 2004 while on active duty. I received 20% for neck injuries. I also suffer from depression, anxiety, and have fear of being in cars and rarely in my house. Do I file for this? Yes. Oh, as primary or secondary. I would file for it for. Ooh, that's a good question, because it could be primarily. You need to file for it. Let's put it that way, okay? Whether it's secondary or primary, that's something for the VA to figure out. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me how it would be secondary to the back problems, because the back problem changed your life dramatically and you can't do the things you used to do. Frankly, you're not the person you used to be, the concept you have in yourself. And if you can't go out at night, you can't go outside during the day, you can't go outside at all, that to me says you should not only be 100% combined, you should also receive what's called SMC-A&A. SMCS, which is basically housebound, meaning you can't go outside except for extreme or basic needs. So yes, you need to apply for that, for service connection for that, whether it's primary or secondary. VA can figure that out. It could be primary due to the car accident itself. It could be secondary due to the service connected back that you already have. So it doesn't really matter how they service connected. What matters is not only they service connected, but you're getting that correct percentage, which for me, I would fight until you got 100% combined rating, and then SMCS on top of that. Greg, good to see you again. I recently had CMP for both knees. I have a large meniscus tear, MRI proof, and prescribed both cane and brace. I was given a 0% rating. Did I have to have constant pain? Why 0? So I don't know why 0, but pain should be rated under the mental health diagnostic code. And so that should be a secondary rating as a residual of the actual problem from the knee. So you should get a rating for that, but you should appeal and say that there was no residual ratings here, which there should have been. So fine, if you want to give me a 0 for the orthopedic range of motion, flexion, whatever, that's what the diagnostic codes say. Honestly, I think the orthopedic diagnostic codes just do not encompass the totality of the problems that are created. Here, I would actually think you should be above a 0% because you're using a cane. You're using braces, which to me shows instability. The knee can be rated on flexion, forward instability, and lateral instability. So to me, they've missed this. So I definitely would appeal that. John, SMCS, do you have to have one disability at 100% and the rest 55 or more to be 160, or do your disabilities add to 155 or more? On your site, it says 100% rating. You have to have 100% rating for one disability or an IU rating for one disability. Okay, so you could have depression at 70 and IU for that. Okay, so the depression rating itself is 70, but the VA acknowledges that it causes unemployability. You could have a back rating at 60. Since that's one rating, it can go up to 100% through unemployability. So it's unemployability or IU for one rating, and then on top of that, you have to have that 60% combined for the other one. So yeah, 55% rounds up to 60. Another step, good to see you. Is there an STR? Excuse me, there is a STR in my C file that is relevant to the claim I'm working on. Should I include a copy of it in my evidence? Aren't the instructions not to include the documents the VA can access? So you're not supposed to submit duplicates of what the VA already has, but if there is a service treatment record that is relevant to your claim, absolutely submit that. I don't care what the VA says. What you're doing is you're bringing it forward and pointing it out to them. Hey, look, this is what proves my claim. Here it is for your convenience to look at and review and see that my claim is valid. So I would put it in there. I would not put it, if you can pick out just one page, that's what I would do. So both my SCRs and VA progress notes, most information is boilerplate, standard reply, abbreviated. I remember more detailed conversations with my provider is not included. That, unfortunately, that is standard with providers. Is there more information hiding someplace? I have my C file and the details are not there. How do I account for this when I file my claim? I would account for it. I do not think there's more information hiding someplace. I think, unfortunately, when you're dealing with doctors, they do a lot of shorthand and abbreviations. How I would deal with it is say, at this consult with the doctor, we talked more about this. This is what is noted here in the STR, but he expanded upon this and we talked about this in detail. And I would put all that information in a letter from you yourself, because you are competent, obviously, to talk about what did happen based on that record there. So that's what I would do. Anthony Rivers, service connected for cervical strain and bilateral radiculopathy. Would I get a bilateral factor for the radiculopathy? Yes. If you have it on both extremities here, we're talking about both arms, you should, yes. Oh, if you submit an FDC, fully developed claim, diagnosis of knee pain, service related, and then upload an MRI report, you got after you filed and waiting on C&P exam, does that remove you from the FDC process? I don't know what they do here, but I have seen so many FDC claims where they just automatically get a C&P exam, even though it's already fully developed. So I can't tell you whether that removes you from the fully developed program. You should still get a decision, hopefully within 3 months. But I don't know whether that's in or out of the fully developed program or not. Robert, is there a change to VA disability coming this summer where they can actually lower your monthly payments you receive? That's not a change. The VA has always been able to do reductions. They can do a reduction on anyone at any time except for a disability rating that has been in place for 20 years. Unless they can show fraud, they can even reduce that. So that has always been the case. Excuse me. And so you just need to be diligent that you're always going to your exams, not your exams, but you're always going to the doctor. You're telling the doctor how it is every time. You're not answering the question when the doctor says how you're doing. You're not just saying good. You're actually giving a description of what you've been feeling, pain-wise, limitation-wise. So it's just important that you keep up those records. So if they do try to reduce you, you have a record to go on that shows that things are not well, that things have actually been going poorly. Cassius, I want to know if I can apply for SMCL and TBI claim at the same time, and will that be enough to get you SMCT? How is it 30% rating required for TBI in order to receive SMCT? I would like to know if that confirmed information about SMCT required for rating purposes. With all the medical evidence of TBI and residuals of TBI, do the VA still deny SMCT and give lower levels because they play down conditions of TBI, or will it be better to present them with a DBQ in order to show positive in favor of your claim for TBI? Okay, a lot to unpack here. Let's go back to the first. Was there a question in the very first one? You can apply, yes, for SMCL and SMCT at the same time with your TBI increased rating claim. Okay. So good. Let's go to the next one here. In my opinion, I've seen the VA play down TBIs. I've seen them rate them at, up to 70 or 100%, and the veteran be basically unable to work, unable to get around, unable to, function on their own. So they should be getting a higher rating, whether it's SMCL or SMCT. SMCL is not necessarily going to prove SMCT. So if you get SMCL, aid in attendance for TBI, that is strong proof of SMCT, but it's not automatic. Okay. So I would be fighting for both at the same time. I only see denials. So in my opinion, what I see is a lot of SMCT claims that are underrated, and we have to fight tooth and nail to get them to SMCT, getting lots of extra evidence in form of not only your statements, statements of loved ones, statements of doctors, statements of anybody that see you on a daily, weekly basis, showing how bad the problem is. Let's see the last one for Cassius. Oops. If you can get a DBQ, disability benefits questionnaire, filled out by one of your private doctors or one of your VA doctors, I strongly recommend that, because that's going to be a lot better evidence. Somebody who sees you, who treats you, who knows what's going on from a 360-degree angle and has a past with you. That's the person I think who has a stronger opinion, and I would definitely be looking to get that DBQ in if you have the option to. Good luck to you, Cassius. Daryl, I'm 70% and have an exiting claim. When filing for an increase, will another C&P exam be needed? They always have a C&P exam on an increase rating. No matter if you file your own medical evidence or not, they're still going to send you to a C&P exam. John, what can I expect at a C&P exam for ANA? Let me think here. For ANA, you have to show that your activities of daily living are impaired by the service-connected disability or disabilities. Okay, so you have to show that you have problems bathing, showering, using the toilet, feeding yourself, getting in and out of bed. You got to show that on a daily basis you need help with that, or you have to show that there's some kind of mental health problem that's so bad that it makes you so forgetful that you don't take your medicines, you don't eat, or you leave the house and you can't find your way back. You got to show that on a daily basis, one of those things or multiple of those things are happening, and you are unable to function without the help of another. My Handy Dan 49. Good afternoon. I was denied sleep apnea secondary to tinnitus, but on the same claim approved for sinusitis. I have a nexus letter to the sleep apnea claim and now have amended it to include sinusitis. Good. So the question is, will the amended nexus in a personal statement be enough for new and relevant evidence for a supplemental claim? I love the fact that you know their terminology and you're working on this. The answer to that is yes. Also, my claim letter under evidence, I did not see my nexus letter. I would resubmit that then. They might have just labeled it third-party correspondence or something like that, but I would resubmit it if you've seen that. My Handy Dan 49, you're doing a great job. It sounds to me like you know the terminology, you know the power of understanding what the VA is trying to do and getting in front of them and doing it. I commend you. You're doing everything great here. Carlos, I'm 100% P&T and was denied rheumatoid arthritis secondary to hypothyroidism, also denied a C&P. Should I appeal? Thanks. If you have evidence in there showing that something happened in service, or not even something happened in service, you've got the hypothyroidism, I would take it to higher level review and say that they denied me without any medical evidence to show that this wasn't related, so that I should be afforded a C&P exam under the VA's duty to assist. And that's what the key you put in there. The VA failed in its duty to assist to give me a C&P exam. Old MP, can the VBA backdate IU claims up to 2012? Yes. If you did not file for IU, but the issue claimed was reason for unemployability at the date was denied. Yes. Given Rice v. Kentucky as precedent. Yes. You don't have to apply for unemployability. If the evidence in the record shows that you're unemployable due to the service-connected disability or disabilities, they have to consider unemployability. It's an implied claim. It's an implicit claim, they say. So yes, you definitely should be getting that service-connected. service connected back to that date if it's in the record. LG, good to see you. Hey, Matt, recently received P&T after medically retiring May 23, and I would like help on my dad getting TDIU. He's currently 90%. Does he need a vocational expert first? Any help would be great. So I love vocational experts on unemployability claims. And the reason why I do is because vocational experts, their expertise is in showing what a veteran, what a person can do based on their training, their schooling, and then their prior experience. What jobs can they do in the world, in their community? And then on top of that, they can graft what limitations are caused by their disabilities and show why or why not they can do those jobs. So if you have access to a vocational expert, I would definitely do that, okay? And the VA has real no way to counter that, because what the expert's going to be doing is using not only those prior things about their job history, but using the C&P reports to show what limitations they have on their back, what limitations of depression, what limitations due to sleep apnea, or, whatever the ratings are. The doctors are going to put little limitations. They might not say fully, okay, the back alone causes the person not to work, but they might say, due to the back, the person can't stand for 10 minutes, can't sit for more than 30. And then the voc rehab person can say, well, these are the problems. With these problems, there's no job they could do. So I definitely recommend that if you can. And congrats on 100%. Learner, good to see you again. Still waiting 13 months since my original claim. VSO said that I should call VA and ask what's going on with my claim. I agree with that. I would also call your congressman. They told me that they would get in as soon as they can. Nothing else. Can I do but wait? Also filed for FOIA request for a copy for my C&P from November 2nd. Still waiting. Nothing can do but wait. Getting tired of waiting. Any advice? Yeah. So I would be calling myself, emailing any emails you get from the VA. I'd also be calling your congressman, your senator, saying, I've been waiting this long. This is ridiculous. Can you please help? Usually when a congressman or senator get involved, magically things start happening. So I would consider doing that. Daryl, part 1. My C&P exam was done December 23, taking a long time to get in VBMS file. My subclaim is going on 7 months now. Got notice to send evidence waiting in 30 days on December 17th, 23. So we're talking 1 month ago. Does that mean VA will check my file for complete C&P exam on today? I sent back that no more evidence with 38 USC notice December 24th, which is in the file. Part 3. When should I get congressperson involved? This is taking too long. C&P exam had favorable results. So they're saying that as of today, they're closing the record. They're giving you that 30 days. I would wait, Daryl, at least 2 weeks, maybe a month. I know you don't want to hear that because you've been waiting already 7 months for the whole supplemental claim, which is, in my opinion, a long time. But my hope would be that there's some flag that goes off in the VA adjudicator's computer saying, okay, this one's ready to rate, and just get it rated. If a month goes by, then yeah, I would get congressman involved, senator involved. I'd have you call, if you have a VSO, have them call, try to get them to push it and get this decided. Benny, 100% IU for mental health, not P&T. Recently diagnosed at VA for IBS and sleep apnea. VA issued CPAP, but never had issues in service. Should I poke the bear? Ooh. Man, I would poke the bear by saying, if you have I'd poke the bear on the mental health and say, why am I not service connected at 100% here, P&T or IU P&T, and just say, if you can get evidence from your doctor saying that the condition is not improving and will not improve, then they should give you the P&T. I like that angle better, personally. On the other hand, if you get the IBS rated at 30% and sleep apnea with a CPAP, that's a 50% rating. You could actually get your rating up to SMCS and get another $300 or $400 a month. As you've seen here, probably, Benny, they hate sleep apnea claims, but if you feel like you have evidence, I'd talk to your doctors first and see if they could provide evidence or nexus statement for you. That's a tough call. You got to make that call yourself. I personally like trying to make the P&T stick first before filing any other claims. Anthony Rivers, good to see you. From your experience, when an examiner gives a negative medical opinion, how detailed is their rationale, and do they substantiate their medical opinion with medical references? Also, where do they write the DBQ? Another paper. You don't necessarily have a DBQ with each nexus or each claim. There should be basically one, maybe sometimes there's two statements in there from their doctors. One could be a DBQ. Now, what do the VA doctors say when it's negative? Do they give reasoning? Sometimes that's how I attack it, because a lot of times doctors are used to saying, this is because I said so. This is related to service because I said so. This is not related to service, and they don't say anything after that. It's just assumed. The doctors just assume that their word is given, and since they said it, they don't have to back it up. If that's the case, that is an inadequate medical exam, and you fight it that way. You say that the VA failed in its duty to assist, to give you an adequate medical exam, because there's no rationale. If the rationale is faulty or there's not medical references, you can fight it that way too, saying the doctor didn't reference how this is related, and hopefully you have something showing that there is a link between the two issues, and you can show that it is related that way. So that's what I would do to fight there. MPAT 2478 again. I have sleep apnea with CPAP diagnosed by VA. Service-connected C-spine injuries and want to connect the two diagnoses. Will a nexus be enough? Well, a nexus is the ground level. You got to show that. Does a nexus have to be in the form of a letter or just a link documented your medical records or on a DBQ? So the DBQ would be done by a doctor. So the doctor has to say, one, that it's related, and then two, most importantly, why? What are the what's medical evidence that links one to the other? And I will say this: we have won plenty of claims where sleep apnea was secondary to the service-connected cervical spine, because the cervical spine can alter how one breathes, especially at night, how they're breathing in their sleep. Mile High Consulting. If MOS has a terror rating for respiratory hazards and biological chemical hazards, can I claim respiratory condition that has reduced my lung capacity by 30% 10 years later? Yes. Doesn't matter how long after service. You can always file. Dwayne Jones, good to see you. Which holds more weight, psychiatrist or psychologist, if I have the options to choose? Wow. Here's what I would say with that. The opinion that holds the most weight is the opinion that's the most detailed. Meaning, who says, this is my prior history with the patient. I've known him for so long. This is the detailed diagnosis the person has, and then this is what happened in service, and this is why I believe it's related. Whoever's going to give you the longer opinion on the rationale, that's who I would go with. Both are equally qualified from the VA standpoint to be able to be competent to give an opinion here. So I would go with the one who's going to take more time to give you the opinion. Hey, frankly, not many people like you are in the position to have a choice. So I think that's great and a great start there. So good luck to you on that. MH, what is your experience with CAR HLR? So CAR HLR is where you get an expedited claim on appeal because the opinion below was so egregious. Whatever the original adjudicator did or didn't do was so awful, and it's just on its face an error that should be overturned. I read a decision can be made in 30 days once it's submitted. Is that true? Yes, it is true. We have had great success with CAR. And especially with what's called duty to assist errors, where one, they didn't go get records they should have gotten, either VA medical records or outside medical records, or two, the C&P exam on its face was so poorly done or poorly interpreted by the VA adjudicator that we say, look, this is just wrong on its face and it should be granted. And we've had great success at that. Big G. If I already have C&P exams for secondary claims but haven't received decision yet, can I still send in nexus and statements of support? You can send in whatever you want if there's no decision yet. As long as you send it before there's a decision, you don't have to decide to file a new supplemental claim. So yeah, if you have more supportive evidence, I would get that in there. Michael, retired for 21 years. My active duty medical record has a list of my ailments from retirement process. Do I reference that document for claims, or do I have to acquire more recent medical records? You have to show a current diagnosis. So I would reference those to show that what was going on in service, but you still have to have a current diagnosis. So you are going to need current medical records diagnosing what your problems are that you want to get service connected. Alan, Is it worth the hassle of filing for sleep apnea if you were not diagnosed in service with it? If you think it's related to service or related to one of your service-connected disabilities, then yes, file it. If you have a doctor who's willing to go for bad for you, that's even better. You file it with their opinion showing what happened in service or what the service-connected condition is that caused it, and you file for it. I mean, here's the thing. You stood for our country. Our country has to stand by you and give you the benefits you deserve under the law. If you feel this is related, then you gotta file it. And again, knowledge is power. You file it, you know what you need to prove it, and then you give it to the VA, and hopefully they give you the benefits you deserve. If not, you still feel like you should win, then you appeal. Old geezer. If I submit documents from the VA website and by snail mail, will that cause any problems besides pissing off the rater? We finally stopped submitting things by snail mail. This was like leaping off the cliff for us because we are so afraid the VA doesn't put things in the file. But since we're able to see the C file online, once we submit something, we can see that it was actually put in the file by the VA. But again, I would say that this is your decision. This is your claim. If you want to submit it both ways to make sure not only that it got in there, but the VA rater actually saw it. Whatever you think's best. We stopped doing that, but I still see the validity of doing it both ways just to make sure that it's seen. Selena, 1 of 3. Hello, my claim at the BVA was finally adjudicated with some grant, some denial. The problem is that it's been in motion since 1998 without a break in the process. The effective date only goes back to the date the board received the claim. This claim was initiated 2 months after I was medically discharged and lost the symptoms and lost in the system until 2009. From that time, I received 7 remands for incomplete exam, but the board only goes back to 2009. Would it be considered an error of some kind on the BVA decision? Yes. If you have prosecuted this case since 1998, it should go all the way back to 1998. If the BVA in their decision said this is granted as of X date, as of 2009, you need to appeal that to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, the Veterans Court. If in that decision they just said it's granted and then it goes back to the regional office and the regional office put in the date of 2009, then you need to appeal that back to the board and say, look, this case has been ongoing since 1998 and it should therefore go back to 1998. S. Hobson, can I get vertigo secondary to migraines? Yes, I have major vertigo caused by my migraines. Yes, you can. Timothy, I'm already service-connected for lumbosacral strain with arthritis and sciatica radiculopathy, right, left, lower extremity, and recently diagnosed with bilateral foot drop and prescribed an AFO brace, excuse me. Will I need a nexus or can I use the notes from my medical records to connect my foot drops to service-connected lumbar strain? Here's the deal. They're going to get a medical opinion no matter what you do. So I would let them get their medical opinion first. Seems, not a doctor, but to me seems pretty obvious that the foot drop's just not going to happen by itself. It's going to be caused by either the back or the radiculopathy, or frankly, both. So I think you got a pretty strong claim there. If the VA C&P exam comes back negative, at that point, I would engage my doctor and say, look, can you give me an opinion whether this is related? If it is related, can you speak to the C&P exam and say why that's wrong? Steady Betty. Hey, Gerald, good to see you again. I was advised by the VA doctor that diagnosed me for depression to get a sleep apnea test. What can I link the sleep apnea to? I have service-related depression, tinnitus, and hearing loss. Honestly, the tinnitus and depression are claims that we've won in the past. If you have a doctor who can say, look, we believe the sleep apnea is related to the depression and the tinnitus because of, that's what I would go for. Frank, what are your thoughts about arguing type 1 diabetes care same as type 2 at its highest rating in the CFR? The CFR has nothing following the removal of a pancreas. That is really fascinating because type 1 diabetes would not be considered to be a disability that could be service connected because it's that they're going to say it's hereditary and they're going to say that it was not caused by service. However, one can have type 1 diabetes due to a pancreatitis problem, or frankly here, removal. So I would argue that the residuals of the pancreatus, which pancreas, assuming that's service connected, I would say that because of that, you have these residuals that are type 1 diabetes that should be rated analogously. That's the key word there. Analogously, or an analogous rating under the diagnostic code for diabetes type 2. It's kind of confusing, and the VA is going to screw that up, honestly, so you're going to need to appeal. But good luck to you, Frank. You need to process that claim if it's What does one do when there are no records of treatment for those of us in combat? My 1971 STR lacks a lot of info that makes it rough going for the home team. My word against theirs. If you can show you're in combat through a Purple Heart or some kind of other, how would you say that? Combat through buddy statements. If you have guys that you served with, that you're still in contact with, that you can show it through that way, that could work. But it is hard when they lose those records. If you can show that your unit was in combat, that's another way to prove that you're in combat. And then they have to take your word that something happened in combat, that it's related to service. Michael, 2015 rating for hearing loss was 20%. Tests in 20, 22, 23 each confirmed that my current hearing loss should be rated 50%. Should my effective date for current loss be the year prior to my NOI or claim? I don't think it should be prior. I don't have enough information here, Michael, to fully understand. But if you had, it's going to be the date of the claim or the date that it got worse, whichever is later. Okay, so if you filed in 2023 and it didn't get worse somehow until 2024, they're going to give you 2024. Obviously, you didn't file until after it got worse, probably. So you file, and it should go back to the date you filed, unless you had a intent to file notice within a year of that decision. Within a year of that actual filing. So again, I don't have all the information here, but that's what I would say based on what I've seen. Lonnie, current rating SMC-M, loss of use in single 100%. Denied ANA for separate disabilities from my loss of use. Recently awarded level 1 caregiver. Will the BVA consider the caregiver? If so, do I have a chance for SMC R1? I can't speak to whether you have a chance for R1. I just don't have enough information here, but the caregiver is a key piece of evidence. Yes, because that could, it's hard to say you need a caregiver and say you don't have loss of use of, need for aid and attendance on a daily basis. If the VHA is saying, look, your disability is so bad that you need somebody caregiving for you on a daily basis. So I think that gives you a stronger rating there. I don't know, though, as far as getting you to R1. If you have ANA for disabilities that are not related to the loss of use, then yes, that should give you that bump up to R1. But I don't, I can only speak generally to this. Good math, though. Most people don't understand that they can get higher and higher for this. So good job. Roughly, what is the current time frame for VBA cases? Okay, so VBA is Veterans Benefit Administration. That's the regional office. If you're filing a new claim, I'm seeing 3 to 5 months. If you're filing a supplemental claim to that, I'm seeing another 5-6 months on top of that. If you're filing a higher level review from the denial of a claim, I'm seeing anywhere from 30 days to 3 months there. If you're talking about BVA claims, Board of Veterans Appeals, your guess is as good as mine. Their website is advertising something like 445 days. I think that's being generous on their part, because what they're doing is counting expedited claims, which they consider within a 30 to 60 days. Most claims are not expedited, and therefore, they're waiting a lot longer. So we're talking years at the BVA. Sergio, I received a notice for an ACE exam the day after I missed the call for an ACE exam. Will that hurt my claim? Yes. My claim status says MES contention cancellation. What does that mean? I don't know what MES contention cancellation means, but I do know that if you miss the exam, the VA can automatically deny whether it's service connection or an increase. So you need to write them and say why you missed it or what happened, and they need to give you another one once you've explained why that wasn't done. Man, have CNP exams for psych eval for supplemental claim denying IU. I'm 70% for PTSD, seen twice by original evaluator, and plus a second psychiatrist reviewed the first doctor. So 3 times and evaluated at 70% for PTSD. What is my next step to deny it again? Also, if I sub vocational eval and still send in this psych CMP, still sent to the psych CMP. Okay, so yeah. Anytime you get an increased rating, this frustrates me a lot. Anytime you ask for an increased rating, it doesn't matter what evidence you have in there. As a rule, the VA is going to send you to a CMP exam. Should they rate it on what they've been given? A lot of times, yes, because a lot of times the nexus is there or the increased rating evidence is there, like you sent in the voc rehab or the vocational expert. Very frustrating, but that's what they do. If it's negative, if you don't get the bump up to IU, I would file a higher level review. In that case, you cannot submit any new evidence, but you can argue that your evidence was stronger than their evidence, or that their evidence was at the least incomplete. So I would definitely do that. If the VA CMP examiner, one of them or the other, did not consider the voc rehab statement, that is an incomplete exam, because that is favorable evidence from a competent provider that they should speak to. You've done well there, by the way, putting that evidence in there and getting it moving. It's frustrating what they've done, but just keep going. Haha, Mom, good to see you. 1 of 4. Oh boy. I put in an intent to file in July for a mental health claim I was working on with my therapist. The very same month, I realized that an earlier claim that was rated 0% failed to include my private medical records. So I did a supplemental claim. The corrected claim came back at 60%. However, instead of paying me back to the original date, which was within 12 months, they paid back to the ITF date, the intent to file date, which was intended for a completely different yet to be filed claim. I'm working on that via HLR this week to correct the back pay date, which I believe is an easy and obvious correction. But have you ever seen them essentially reinstate an ITF date? Is it worth asking about during the informal conference, or is it even possible? Thanks for any insight you can give. So they should automatically consider your mental health claim. When you have an intent to file, any and all claims filed within a year of that intent to file should go back to that intent to file. Okay. Whether, you're saying that is the intent to file related just to one claim? It's not. It's related to any and all claims within that first year. Now, when you write the VA for your depression exam, for your depression claim, I would note in there saying, look, I filed an intent to file on X date. I think it was July, you said. And I think, once this is service connected, it should go back to that date. So I would make them aware of that, but you don't have to reinstate an intent to file. You just need to file within that 12 months. Hello, I had a CMP exams 2 days ago from a back. They had a trainee examiner with another examiner who was sloppy in understanding and typing. They did not want to read my statement. Is that all allowed? If they give you a negative opinion, you come back and you file a higher level review and you say that 1, this person was sloppy, and 2, they didn't read the evidence you gave them, which was dispositive or fundamental to your claim. And if they didn't do that, again, that's a failure of the duty to assist to get an adequate exam. And that's what you're claiming there if it is negative. Selena, good to see you. Hello again. If you receive an initial grant for disability for 30% and you're already 100%, will you receive back pay if the 100% does not include the issue you were just granted? Ooh, this is a great question. I kind of need a graph to lay this out. Okay, if you've been 100% and you file, let's say you've been 100% this whole time and you file a claim and you get that 30% right here, and it goes here and you get granted the 30%, you aren't going to get any additional benefits if SMC is not involved. Okay, we're just going to put that aside. All right. If you filed the 30% here, and while you were waiting for the 30%, 100% was granted for something else, then this difference, the delta between when you filed the 30% and when you were granted 100%, you would get paid for that. Hopefully that helps. I mean, literally, I would do you more justice if I could put it on a graph, because it is confusing. But essentially, if you've already been 100% the whole time that you filed the 30%, you won't get any benefits. If you filed the 30% before you were granted 100%, then you would get up until you got that 100% rating. Hopefully that helped. Kathleen, 1 of 3. I filed for a higher level review and new claim at the same time. First, they said favorable, then asked for DR to review new notes, doctor to review new notes. Now, instead of review, they want me to do another C&P. Did I open Pandora's box? I'm at 50%. Can they take that away? They can always take away your benefits. They can always reduce your benefits. There's no block on that. Okay. If they're sending you to another C&P exam, you need to walk in prepared to speak to your disability. Look up and see what the diagnostic code is for your disability. Okay. You'd find that on your rating sheet. Once you've done that, Nate, if you post a link to this, what the diagnostic codes are, go in there and figure out which rating applies to your disability and speak to those issues that affect you. If it's sleep apnea and you have a CPAP machine, you say, hey, look, I have a CPAP, and that's a 50% rating. Okay. If it's, if it's depression and you have suicidal thoughts, well, you need to look on there and see where it says suicidal thoughts, and that's a 70% rating. You need to speak to those so that they note that in your exam. Okay. They can reduce you at any time, but at the end of the day, if the facts are the facts, if you have this disability and it's causing, a certain amount of pain or a certain amount of limitation, your job is to make sure they understand that and they see that through medical records, your statements of friends and family. All right, let's hit the next one, Nate. Uh-oh, hope we didn't freeze here. All right, while we're waiting on that, I'm just going to pick up one from Tremaine. He says, can you file peripheral neuropathy secondary to plantar fasciitis? The answer to that is yes. You have to show that it is service connected, meaning that it is related. And you do that by a doctor, again, they're going to send you to their C&P exam first. So I would wait to see what that doctor says and then go from there. But yes, that is something that can be related. Let's look at bras. If I qualify for all PACT Act burn requirements, I was diagnosed with COPD for the very first time. I know this is a presumptive and I have a claim in progress. How does the rating increase with the new PACT Act and COP presumptive? So the presumptive just gets you service connected. Once it's service connected, then at that point you have to show what the rating is. And again, I don't know if Nate had a chance to put up the diagnostic codes, but you want to look in there and see what the COPD could be rated as far as, I think it's a 10, 30, maybe 60% rating. I'm not positive, but you want to see what the actual symptoms are they're rating and figure out what of those symptoms you have, and then go for the highest rating that the symptoms are applicable to you. All right. I think, Nate, we had a problem glitching with, okay. UV again. UVN. I had a lumbar C&P 3 months ago, got an increase, also filed for thoracic. I went to C&P, but they also did a lumbar again, claiming it was ordered. Can you clarify why this would be? Concerned. Is there another one on here? I would write the VA and say, I asked for a thoracic service connection or thoracic rating. If I cannot work for an employer, can I have my own LLC where I'm able to adapt my own needs if I'm at 100%? Yes, you can. That's the easy one. So you just need to clarify saying, hey, look, this was for a thoracic exam, not lumbar. I'm concerned that they didn't consider my lumbar symptoms, my thoracic symptoms. And please note this, if it's not in the C&P results, that I should get a new exam. Eric, 1, I'm rated 50% for migraines, 30 for IBS, 40 for fibromyalgia, 50% for adjustment, depression, and anxiety, 10% for tinnitus, total of 90. TDIU is my best choice, but the forms are made for experts. There is no way I can afford a vocational expert. What are the odds of me just doing it solo? I mean, if you can't work due to these disabilities, I would write out a statement as to what your limit, what you used to do, why you can no longer do it due to these disabilities. Why can't you keep the job? I don't care if you can go get a job. VA says that if you can't keep and maintain a job, I want to know why you can't do it day to day. What is causing your problems? I mean, you probably have experience to where you could go and get a job, but I imagine these disabilities together would keep you from showing up on a day-to-day basis. So write out a statement as to why that is. Submit that. Again, the VA is going to send you to their exam. Make sure the examiner knows what was in your statement, okay? And then let's see what happens. Hopefully you get service connected for TDIU at that point. If you don't, look around. Obviously, an attorney is one way to go. If you look and see a deficiency in the C&P exam and that they didn't consider all the evidence, then file the appeal yourself and say, look, I should have been given more consideration for my statement. The doctor didn't even look at it, and then that's inadequate exam, and they need to go back and reconsider that. So file the thing now. I mean, I only see denials, so I can only say that VA over denies TDIU, but they do grant it a lot. So if you have all that evidence in there, you should win, and you should file an appeal if you don't. Patrick, is it pyramiding if you are service connected for sinusitis with headaches, and can you file for migraines, tinnitus, and sinus headaches, even if you've been denied for migraines in the past? So what we need to do here is parse out the difference of what the sinusitis causes, what are the symptoms of that, and then what are the headaches, what are the symptoms of the headaches. And because what they've done is they've grouped the two. They've said, oh, they're overlapping. They're caused by the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're caused by the same thing. What matters is if you have different symptoms for the sinusitis and then the headaches. We don't care what they label the headaches as for service connection. Here, they essentially admitted that they're service connected due to the sinusitis. Okay, great. All we want to know are the symptoms now. And if the symptoms are different from sinusitis, if the symptoms of headaches are that you're prostrated for more than once a month, that would give you a 30% rating just for the headaches. Okay, and then the sinusitis should have its own rating for whatever problems it's causing you, in the front of your head or the congestion. So yes, those should be rated separately. Let's not worry about what they label it, okay? Because they've already conceded it's related to service. Now we want to focus on the rating, because at the end of the day, you're not looking for service-connected issues. You're looking for service-connected compensation. So we don't care necessarily what they label it as. We care that they pay you the correct amount. Darren, do VA raters have access to veterans' private medical records by any means without veterans' authorization, such as with Joint Legacy Viewer and participating in community providers for the VHIE? First of all, there's access, but first of all, there's knowledge, or there's notification thereof. Okay, so they need to know if you're treating with a non-VA provider. If they don't know that, even if they had access, they probably are not going to look at it. So first thing you have to do is notify the VA, say, hey, I'm treating here. In my opinion, I would authorize them, if I wanted them to see those records, I would authorize them to see those records by filling out their, I can't remember the name of the form, but filling out that sheet and giving them authorization. So can they have access? Yes. But if they don't know they're there, under the law, they don't have to go look for it. That's called a fishing expedition, according to the Veterans Court. They don't have to go looking for any and every possible angle if they have not been notified. Paul, can you please discuss 38 USC 51? Thank you. Let me just make sure. All right. USC 1151. Let's see here. So as far as the, we're talking about essentially a medical malpractice. An 1151 claim is a claim where the VA did something wrong in medical treatment, or a voc rehab case where they sent you to be a day laborer and you hurt your back. Well, if the VA sent you to do that, then they can be on the hook for that back injury. So essentially, an 1151 case is where the VA does something wrong or inadequate or above and beyond the scope of what could go wrong in a surgery. And when they do that, whatever happens is rated as if it were related to service. Okay, so let's say they do a back, they do something for your lumbar spine, and they botch it, and then all of a sudden you have no feeling in either one of your legs. Well, if that was something that could have happened due to the surgery, it's a risk, that's a known risk that has to be taken, and you're notified of that, you're not going to be service connected. However, if it's something that was clear error by the doctor, or more likely than not, the doctor erred, then at that point, the legs could be service connected, even though it wasn't related to service, it was related to VA treatment. And at that point, you could get compensation for that. Hopefully that lets you know what's going on. I mean, there's so many different areas that 1151 covers, but that's kind of the basics. Without knowing more, I can't get more detailed on that. But usually it has to do with the VA medical care. They're hard claims to prove because you need a doctor to show that what the course of care should have been and how it deviated by what the doctor gave you or how there was inefficient notice. So those are tougher claims, but they can be won, and you can get service-connected disability for that. If you're looking for an attorney who does that, we typically do not handle those claims, but there's a firm out of Dallas that does nationwide claims called Glover Luck. We send a lot of cases their way on 1151 issues, and I think they are excellent. They again and again, I see great results after what they've done. So if you want, please call us and we'd love to refer you, or just contact them directly. Glover Luck's the name of the firm. Good luck to you there. Flow for life for real. VA denied claim for lower back pain because they said in their medical opinion was better than the independent medical opinion submitted. What are the next steps? Higher level review, hire an attorney, second time submitting. If you have a favorable medical opinion, I would, first of all, again, let me applaud you. You understand the system. Obviously, you're looking at all the different angles. You're not lost here as far as what your rights are and what your ability. You've been studying. Hats off to you. Okay. You have a favorable medical exam. That means you put effort forward to get this service connected. If I were you, I would file a higher level review here. That means you can't put in any new evidence. But if you already have a positive exam, what you need to do is highlight what that exam says, what details that exam has that the C&P exam does not, and show why that exam should have been given more weight. The VA raters all the time will say, hey, we had a C&P examiner. He said no. I don't care what anybody else said. That's not the law. And so you just need to highlight what was not what was at issue, but what was stated by your doctor and not theirs. I would, again, if I were you, I would file the higher level review here. I don't think you need an attorney at this point. I mean, you have the knowledge here. You have favorable evidence. I would go with that. If you need somebody else to step in and do it, yeah, you have a right to hire an attorney. Go ahead and do that. But to me, I think you're in a good position where you understand your claim. I would file for it first. If they deny you, then you can always file a supplemental claim with new and relevant evidence. You could hire an attorney at that point, or you could keep on doing it yourself. So at this point, I don't think you need an attorney, but that's my opinion. You have every right to hire one, but you seem to really understand what's going on here. And again, I applaud you that understanding that knowledge is power. And I think you can do what you need to do to win this case. Vance made it to 100% P&T thanks to Helen Ponton and Combat Craig. Hey, that's great. Combat Craig is another great resource, folks. If y'all aren't following him, he has videos on at least a weekly basis. And he goes into great depth on all kinds of issues. He's very knowledgeable because he himself is a veteran who has gone through this process, the ups and downs of it. But he's somebody we've collaborated with in the past and had a lot of fun with. He's a bit irreverent. His thoughts on the VA are absolutely comical to listen to because he knows what it's like to be from the inside. But I'm glad to see that happen for you, Vance. And congratulations for getting what you deserve. Rick, sorry. What year did it become mandatory for 686C for veterans to get paid dependent benefits? Ooh, I don't know. I got to tell you, I've been practicing for over 15 years, and that has always been the VA has issued that form saying we need this information for you to get paid dependent benefits. So as long as I've known, I don't know what year it goes back to. Laura from Frank 6216. Do I have to appeal separately for TDIU earlier effective date from the increased rating claim that is part and parcel of TDIU? Do you have to? Does the law say you have to? No. But should you? I would, just to cover all your bases. The TDIU was deferred and sent in a separate rating. I definitely would do that then. I definitely would file an appeal for both. And again, all you're doing is covering your bases. Does the law say you have to do that? No. But at the end of the day, my job and what I believe is getting veteran benefits, and the law is a tool, but it's not, I'm not interested in making case law. You could file just for the one and end up fighting it all the way to the BVA, go to the Veterans Court, you could win there and you could get a great decision, but we're talking 5 to 7 years. I'm all about getting veterans the benefits they deserve as quickly as possible. And so I would file for it both. It's kind of a pain, but it's worth doing just to make sure that your bases are covered. Alonzo, I'm 100% P&T for 2 years now. I am more ill from respiratory issues, but always have been denied. Should I file under the PACT Act? I'm concerned about losing my P&T. I can't answer that for you in these details. If the respiratory condition would give you enough for a special monthly compensation like SMCS, meaning you get a 60% rating, that could be worth filing for because you get an additional, additional $300 to $400 a month. If the respiratory issues are if there's a part of respiratory issues that are involved in the 100% rating, let's say you have sinusitis problem and you're filing for a lung condition and they're considered overlapping, the VA could reconsider what happened in that 100% rating and maybe look to reduce it. So I don't know. I can't tell you more without knowing more, but you just need to weigh whether you want the VA to go back into your information, or is this something that gets you above and beyond up to an SMC rating? If it doesn't get you to an SMC rating, the answer is easy. It's no, do not file. So what do you do here? You go look into the diagnostic codes, figure out what your disability would be, and then look at the ratings. If the ratings do not get you above 100%, don't get you up to 60%, I would not file it. Yolanda Frug Adams. I always mess up your name and I apologize, but I appreciate you coming back again and again. It's good to see you. I had a C&P exam for my PACT Act claims, and the doctor started asking about things that were already been adjudicated. Does this mean they're re-looking at those? I can't tell you what it means. You get doctors sometimes who go into the whole record and start looking all around, poking in places, frankly, they shouldn't be in. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you there, other than make sure you answer those questions in the way you've always answered them, in the way it's still affecting you. Kevin, is more than one psychiatrist nexus letters overkill for my supplemental TBI claim, TBI appeal? I don't think so. If you have more than one doctor who's there fighting for your claim, then I would definitely do that. I would definitely put those notes in there, and then any opinion they have. That's great if you have more than one. I mean, that shows that you're really supported by your medical community, which unfortunately is not always the case. Mr. Distech, just scheduled for C&P general medical exam. Advice, please. I have 7 different claims in currently. So my advice would be to go look at, again, diagnostic codes for each one of these issues, the disability benefits questionnaire for each of these issues, figure out where you should be service connected, or how you should be service connected, first of all, okay? What happened in service, what's currently going on, okay? And then what is the link, the nexus between the two? Figure those things out, be able to speak to the doctor on each of those issues on how there is a nexus between that, okay? Once you've done that, then you need to look at those diagnostic codes again and the disability benefits questionnaire and figure out what is your highest rating for each. What symptom on the highest rating do you match for each of those, and then speak to that when you're there as well. It's a lot of homework, but at the same time, going in prepared, going in with the knowledge is really important here so that you get a full and adequate C&P exam for these issues. DC, is the supplemental claims deadline 1 year after the intent to file or 1 year after the original decision date for each claim? It's 1 year after the decision for each claim. Okay, so the intent to file only talks about the effective date. Once the decision is made, that decision, you have 365 days from there to appeal, or to either file a higher level review or file a supplemental claim with new and relevant evidence. UVN, what is the highest percentage ratings for thoracic and lumbar respectively, or combined if the range is 10% or less? Thank you. I can't speak to this off the top of my head. There was one point in my career where I knew all these ratings off the top of my head, but again, check out the diagnostic codes on this and you'll know it. I do know that those would be pyramiding. If you got them both service connected, they probably would only give you the higher of the two, but please go check that out and see. I'm not even going to guess what it is because I just don't know. All right, let's take 3 more questions here. Marva Lisa Rand, good to see you again. Had a baby while in service and no record of it. So how long can I prove that other medical that's service connected if my records are not there to prove it? I did get 50% for PTSD sexual misconduct. Well, I mean, if you had a baby while you were in service, what I would say there is, let's start with the birth certificate. If the birth certificate matches up in a time frame that's, it's 1972 when the baby was born, and you were in service from 1970 to 1973, well, I don't care what's not in your record. The fact that that baby was born in that time, that is proof beyond reasonable doubt that the baby was born in service. So once you show that, then you can build your case off that as far as anything related to your to the birthing process or to the PTSD. The fact that they already have the sexual misconduct in there as well, I would just assume that there's an incident there that can be related to. This frustrates me. I can't imagine how much it's frustrating you. This just looks like they didn't do their job here. So I would definitely keep fighting this. I'd appeal it, but get the birth certificate in. They can't walk away from that. That's a legal document. Jim, when I retired in 97, was denied hearing loss. I did not submit a claim, but was done through records review at retirement. Do I file a new claim? Yes. Moto 331 for the final. Injured my knee in the U.S. Marine Corps during PT. First sergeant saw me hurt and told me to go to medical. I told him I was okay, but I did note it in my final medical screenings. Should I get a buddy letter from him? If you have access to get a buddy letter from him, I definitely would do that. Buddy letters are extremely powerful. Okay, you have an independent third party saying, this is what I saw, he did this, and I saw as a result, there was an injury there, he was limping or whatever, he twisted his knee, he popped his knee. That is very strong evidence to show that something happened in service. Once you have that there, then you establish, okay, you've got the diagnosis now, and you've seen a doctor relating one to the other. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. Again, I love the fact that so many of y'all are so informed in what you're doing. You're pressing me on issues as far as what's in the regs, what's in as far as the statutes. You know your rights, and I so am encouraged by that, because again, knowledge is power, and the more you understand, the more you can get the benefits you deserve. Okay, so thanks again for joining us today. We will be back here same time, same place next week, and we look forward to talking.